Naoya Inoue, often called the Monster, has forged a reputation in boxing circles as one of the most dangerous men in the sport, not just for his punching power, but for the terrifying precision and control with which he dismantles his opponents. What sets Inoue apart is not merely his speed or strength, but his relentless pursuit of perfection inside the ring. It's not just about winning for him, it's about proving a point. And time again, fighters who dared to mock, disrespect, or underestimate him learned the hard way that provoking the Japanese phenom was not only a tactical error, but a guaranteed recipe for disaster. Over the years, a number of confident opponents have stepped forward to challenge him, brimming with bravado and brash words. But what unfolded in the ring was a different story, a story of domination, lesson teaching, and unforgiving violence that often left those cocky challengers broken, stunned, and humiliated. One such case came in the semifinals of the World Boxing Super Series, when Inoue faced off against undefeated Puerto Rican star Emmanuel Rodriguez. At the time, Rodriguez held the IBF bantamweight title, and the fight was a high-stakes unification bout, with Inoue's WBA belt also on the line. It was a winner-takes-all scenario that already had tension, but Rodriguez and his trainer escalated the heat by throwing shade at Inoue's family, particularly his father. They questioned Inoue's pedigree, called him overrated, and painted him as someone who hadn't faced a real challenge yet. These comments weren't taken lightly, and Inoue, true to his nature, didn't respond with words. He let the ring be his answer. From the opening bell, Rodriguez looked sharp. He came out aggressive, connecting with solid punches early on, showing that he had power and confidence. For the first minute or so, he looked like a man on a mission, determined to prove that he was more than just talk. His 58% knockout ratio suggested that he wasn't someone who could be easily dismissed, and his sharp jab and movement indicated that he was prepared. But that early success was short-lived. Inoue remained composed and silent, an eerie calm that was actually the signal of the coming storm. Once the second minute arrived, Inoue flipped the switch and everything changed. Suddenly, it was as if a predator had been awakened. Inoue began circling Rodriguez with sharp angles, dissecting his movements and probing for openings. He began landing heavy punches with surgical accuracy, and Rodriguez's expression shifted from confidence to concern. Then in the second round, the hammer dropped. Inoue launched a thunderous left hook that came out of nowhere and dropped Rodriguez for the first time in his professional career. The arena erupted. Rodriguez, stunned and seeing stars, struggled to his feet, but the damage had already been done. The monster had arrived, and he was merciless. As Rodriguez tried to regain composure, Inoue didn't wait. He closed the distance with terrifying speed and launched another flurry of punches. Rodriguez was down again. The referee gave him the count, and against better judgment, he stood up one more time, but by then the writing was on the wall. Inoue came in with another barrage, this time finishing the job with a devastating combination that rocked Rodriguez to his core and forced the referee to stop the fight. Just like that, it was over. Emmanuel Rodriguez, once undefeated and full of bravado, had been destroyed in less than 2 rounds. Inoue left the ring not only with both titles, but with a reputation that echoed beyond Japan. This was a fighter who didn't just win, he annihilated. From that moment on, Inoue became the boogeyman of the bantamweight division. No one wanted to face him unless they had no other choice. He ruled the division with complete authority, turning challenger after challenger into footnotes in his story. But as all great fighters do, Inoue eventually looked to conquer more territory. In July 2023, he made the leap to super bantamweight, stepping up 4 pounds to face a man many considered the king of the division, Stephen Fulton. Fulton held both the WBC and WBO belts and was widely regarded as one of the most skilled boxers in the weight class. He had an impressive record and an aura of control, with many believing his footwork, ring IQ, and counterpunching abilities would be enough to frustrate Inoue. In the build-up to the fight, Fulton was confident, some might say too confident. He downplayed Inoue's accomplishments, suggesting that his experience and toughness would prevail. He even implied that Inoue's success was partly due to hype, hinting that the world wasn't used to seeing a Japanese fighter dominate the way Inoue had. The remarks were subtle but carried enough condescension to irk those who had followed Inoue's career closely. Once again, Inoue didn't respond in the media. He didn't need to. The ring was his stage, and the bell was his cue. From the opening round, it was evident that Fulton had made a grave miscalculation. Inoue came out blazing, his jab slicing through Fulton's guard like a hot knife through butter. The speed difference was immediately clear. Fulton, known for being elusive and crafty, found himself on the back foot, unable to establish his rhythm. Every attempt to counter was met with blistering retaliation. Inoue's timing was impeccable, his footwork smooth and his combinations deadly. The crowd could sense the momentum shifting, not slowly, but violently. By the second round, Fulton was no longer the aggressor. He was just trying to survive. What followed was a masterclass in pressure fighting. Inoue maintained distance when he needed to, closed in when Fulton was vulnerable, and constantly shifted angles to create openings. Fulton, who had once dismissed Inoue as overhyped, was now clearly overwhelmed. His hesitation to throw punches grew round by round, as he feared the savage counters waiting on the other end. It was a mental battle as much as a physical one, and Inoue was winning both. Then came the seventh round, the crescendo of this symphony of destruction. Inoue landed a crisp straight right that crashed into Fulton's chin, followed by a wicked left hook that sent him to the canvas. Fulton, dazed but brave, beat the count. But it didn't matter. As soon as he stood, Inoue pounced. He unleashed a hellstorm of punches that pinned Fulton to the ropes and left the referee no choice but to intervene. The monster had struck again. Another champion, another supposed elite fighter, had been systematically dismantled and humiliated. But Inoue wasn't finished. On January 24, 2025, he stepped into the ring once more to defend his unified super bantamweight titles, IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO, against Kim Ya Jun. Though Kim wasn't undefeated, he had built a reputation in South Korea for being a rugged and determined fighter with decent power and flashy speed. More importantly, he stepped in as a last-minute replacement, and while the odds were heavily stacked against him, Kim appeared relaxed, grinning at the weigh-in and suggesting that he had something up his sleeve. What unfolded next, however, made it clear that smiling at Inoue was perhaps the worst strategy anyone could employ. From the opening bell, Kim seemed frozen. He moved cautiously, unsure of how to approach a fighter who appeared to be moving at double speed. Inoue, meanwhile, floated around the ring with ease. His footwork resembled that of a ballet dancer, light and efficient, allowing him to glide in and out of range while peppering Kim with jabs and right hands. By the second round, Inoue's right hand was landing at will. Kim's reaction slowed and the swelling under his right eye started to become noticeable. Inoue was surgical, but he wasn't in a rush. He was enjoying himself, treating the bout like a glorified sparring session where he could showcase his full arsenal. By the fourth round, Kim's demeanor changed. Perhaps in a desperate bid to regain some pride, he started taunting Inoue, raising his hands and beckoning him to throw harder punches. It was a moment that might have seemed brave to casual fans, but to those who knew Inoue's tendencies, it was a red flag. Poking the monster never ends well. Sure enough, Inoue obliged. He launched a series of bone-rattling hooks and uppercuts that turned Kim's cocky smirk into a grimace. Moments later, a perfectly timed combination sent Kim stumbling, forcing the referee to stop the fight before further damage was done. Once again, Inoue had silenced a challenger with arrogance and decisiveness. Looking across these performances, a pattern emerges. The moment an opponent underestimates Inoue, whether by disrespecting his family, mocking his nationality, or doubting his ability, they sign their own death warrant. Emmanuel Rodriguez learned that in 2 rounds. Stephen Fulton found out in 7. And Kim Ya Jun had his brief moment of confidence smashed by the 4th. What makes Inoue's punishment so compelling isn't just the power behind his punches. It's the composure, the timing, and the uncanny ability to adapt mid-fight. He reads opponents like open books and capitalizes on their flaws with cold precision. Whether it's a well-timed counter, a punishing body shot, or a sequence of combinations designed to overwhelm, Inoue always finds the perfect way to end a fight, and often does so before the final bell. This kind of dominance isn't just rare, it's generational. Inoue isn't simply beating opponents, he's taking apart their game plans, exposing their weaknesses and leaving a psychological impact that lasts beyond the physical pain. And while most fighters need rounds to feel out their opponents, Inoue seems to calculate the trajectory of a fight within the first 30 seconds. That's what makes him terrifying, not just to his opponents, but to the entire landscape of boxing. Champions hesitate to sign up for matches against him, knowing full well that the risk of being embarrassed looms large. As Naoya Inoue continues his journey through boxing, his legacy is building not just in titles and records, but in the way he delivers justice inside the ring. He represents a unique blend of humility and savagery, quiet outside the ropes but devastating within them. And for those who think they can shake him with arrogance or trash talk, history has shown that they're only digging their own grave. In the end, Naoya Inoue teaches all who face him a singular truth. Arrogance might build hype, but only skill, discipline, and respect can survive the wrath of the monster.